All right, let's talk about building lists in B4X. If you've ever felt like getting that modern, beautiful look is just way too much work, then you are in the right place. We're going to dive into B4X DaisyList, a component that's all about creating stunning UIs without the headache. So let's jump right in. And to kick things off, just look at this, seriously. This isn't some Photoshop mockup. It's a real, fully functional list built right in B4X using the B4X DaisyList component. You've got avatars, you've got that stacked text, icons, the whole shebang. And the best part? By the time we're done here, you'll know exactly how to build this yourself. Okay, let's be honest for a second. The standard B4X list, it can feel a little bit dated, right? And if you want to get that modern look, you're usually stuck doing a ton of manual panel work, writing the same boring boilerplate code over and over again. Well, B4X DaisyList is here to completely change that game.
All right, so let's get our hands dirty and actually build our very first list. I think you're going to be surprised at just how easy it is to get up and running.
Now check this out. This is literally all it takes to get started. Once you've initialized the list, it is just one single line of code. You use the add text row method, and boom, you've added your first item. That's it. No messing around with panels, no trying to calculate heights, just simple, clean, readable code.
And here's what you get. It's clean. Yeah, it's functional, but it's not exactly beautiful yet. Think of this as our blank canvas, because from here, we're going to use a really powerful styling concept to completely transform it. Okay, now for the really fun part, styling with tokens. Now, if you've ever touched modern web frameworks like Tailwind CSS, this is going to feel super familiar. It's this declarative way of doing UI design that makes styling incredibly fast and, more importantly, consistent.
So, what in the world are design tokens? Well, the best way to think of them is like shortcuts, or even cheat codes for good design. Instead of having to remember specific hex color values or complicated shadow parameters, you just use a simple, memorable name like shadow-md. The component does all the heavy lifting, making sure you get a consistent and modern look every single time. Let's see this in action, because this is where it gets cool. On the left, no shadow, totally flat. On the right, we just set the shadow property to Shadow XL. And just like that, with one tiny change, we get this beautiful depth, this elevation that makes the list practically jump off the screen. It's a huge difference. All right, next up, those sharp corners. You know, a big part of modern design is having these soft, rounded edges. With B4DaisyList, it's as simple as flipping a switch. It's just a Boolean property. You set rounded box to true, and instantly, the whole list container gets this really pleasant modern feel. So easy. You know, white space is so crucial for a clean design, and the row gap property gives you total control. Just look at the difference here between a gap of 4 and 16 dips. That extra space lets each item breathe, and it makes the whole list feel way less cluttered and a lot more polished. And when it comes to colors, you can just forget about hunting for hex codes. The component uses DaisyUI's awesome color system. So for example, base 100 is your main background color, but then a token like base content/5 automatically figures out a faint, semi-transparent version of your main text color, which is perfect for those subtle dividers. It's a really smart system that guarantees your colors are always going to look good together. Okay, so we've styled the container and it's looking pretty sharp. But now let's dig into the rows themselves. How do we actually build something as complex as that song playlist we saw at the very beginning? Well, it's actually way easier than you might think. The whole process is just wonderfully logical. It's 3 simple steps. First, you create each little piece of your row, the avatar, the text, the icon, as its own separate B4X view. Second, you just add all those views into a standard B4X list. And finally, you pass that whole list of views over to the add row with items method. That's it. The component handles all the tricky layout and alignment stuff for you. And the key thing to realize here is that you're just writing standard B4X code. So for step 1, we might create a function like createAvatarView. All this function does is build and return a B4X view for our avatar. By making these small, self-contained functions for each little UI element, our code becomes incredibly clean, organized, and super reusable. And it's the exact same idea for the stacked artist and song title. We create another function that builds a B4X view containing a couple of labels. Again, it's just standard B4X layout code that you already know. You're just building these small, manageable visual components one at a time. And here is the final step, the big payoff. We create a standard B4X list. We add all the views we just built, the avatar, the title view, and whatever else, and then we just hand that list over to the Add Row with Items method. The Daisy list takes all those little pieces and magically arranges them into a perfect row for us. All that complex layout is handled automatically. And the result of that whole assembly process is this: a perfectly aligned, complex, and really beautiful list item. You can see exactly how each component we coded, the avatar, the stacked text, has found its perfect place inside the row. Okay, so after seeing all that, let's just step back for a minute and talk about why this whole approach is so powerful. Because this is about way more than just making a list look pretty. So let's just quickly recap the key benefits here. You get a modern UI right out of the box. The styling is declarative and super simple, all thanks to tokens. The rows are incredibly flexible. You can compose them from literally any B4X view. And all of this means you write way less boilerplate code, making your whole development process faster and more efficient. It's honestly a huge step forward for building UIs in B4X. And the customization doesn't just stop with code, not at all. There are over 20 different properties available to you right inside the Visual Designer. This means you can tweak everything from shadows and colors to padding and gaps, all without ever leaving the designer. That's going to speed up your workflow like crazy. You see, B4XDasyList is more than just another list component. It's really a new way to think about building your user interfaces in B4X. It gives you the tools to create modern, beautiful apps way faster than ever before. So the only real question left is, what amazing things are you going to build with it? Thanks for joining me for this explainer.